Bear with me. Okay, so we are live. So Jeremy, welcome. So everyone, I hope everyone continues to be safe and sound during COVID and that you're making the best of the circumstances and checking on any neighbors that are truly shut-ins and cannot get out. And now that we're starting to slowly reopen back in the tri-state and Massachusetts areas, it's starting to be a different change of life for us all, but please continue to keep doing what the healthcare system is telling us to do with the masks. So I'm thrilled today to welcome Jeremy Bhandari. I'm sorry, Jeremy, you pronounce how your last name, and I practiced this with you before, and I apologize. So Jeremy is a debut author of The Grind, and I would like to welcome him here today so he can tell us a bit about his journey, how he became interested in writing on this particular topic. So Jeremy, welcome.
How are you, Donna? It's a pleasure to be here, and don't worry about the name. It happens all the time. We're just getting to know each other, so it's all good.
Yes. So what inspired you to write this particular book?
Yeah, I think sports have always been, kind of at the forefront of a passion of mine since I was young. I remember going to sporting events, watching them, never missing a game, just constantly absorbing sports. I just loved just the greatness of it, just seeing athletes just flourish at the highest level. So I knew I always loved sports, and following my graduation from college at UMass, I was blessed with an opportunity to work at ESPN, which any kid who likes sports growing up, getting the chance to create content for ESPN that goes up on the big screen is a dream come true, really, for someone fresh out of school. So yeah, I followed my dream. I moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina, where the role was stationed, and my day-to-day experience there was a lot of creating content around stats and accolades, right? You see ESPN, it's a lot of numbers. We're crunching data. We're harping on the beauty of what they do, the men and women do on the field. And to me, that's awesome, right? I love that. And that's why I fell in love with sports, was the numbers, was like a way to exemplify their greatness. But I always had this burning desire to share sports, share these men and women's stories in a different light, in a light that could inspire, could teach. Something it just always kind of circulated in my head was like, how can we use sports to teach? How can we use their paths and use what they did in their lives and instill it into anyone's walk of life? So like I said, ideas just started churning in my head, and one thing led to another, and I thought, you know what, how about I just interview athletes, figure out how they got to the top, figure out what they did, so we can, like I said, pass it on to the next one in line, pass it on to the next generation, so that they can immediately instill these tendencies that these great men and women practice throughout their journey, so that they can immediately instill them in their own life. And that's what we did with Trust the Grind.
That's fabulous, because I know from my own we come from, one of our children was a big athlete, and many of our nieces and nephews, between wrestling, hockey, basketball, you name it, we had a lot of athletes in the family. So it was always interesting to see how they balanced their success with their sport, but then still paying attention to their academics at the same time, and then still being able to give back to their local communities through volunteering efforts. So to actually be able to engage with these professional athletes as to how they did their path must have been truly fascinating, because no one's path is the same regardless.
Yeah, it was so interesting to learn, because it's one thing to talk about, oh, I shot, hearing someone, oh, I shot 1,000 shots and I dribbled for this many hours, and the actual sports side of it. But when I got to really speak to these men and women, it was more about, I kept a journal, what some of